Please be seated. Can I have a prayer book? Oh. Many. That's good. So, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I thought I would like to start with a very short breathing exercise. To settle our mind, to bring our mind present moment here, and then followed by generating a good motivation, intention for being here. Okay. Again, make yourself comfortable, relax. As you breathe in and out normally, naturally, just try to observe and be aware of the breath as you breathe in and out. Then we'll try to generate a good intention, for example, by reflecting, contemplating, and feeling how lucky and fortunate I am to have this precious human life. Met the Dharma, not only Dharma, but Mahayana Dharma, complete Dharma, and have met incredible qualified teachers, such as His Own Dalai Lama, Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche, and other gurus. And how fortunate and lucky, even more so, to be alive and to be here now, today. Therefore, I must not waste this incredible opportunity and make most of it. Thereby making my life more meaningful, more beneficial, more helpful. And there can be nothing more meaningful or beneficial than to be able to help and contribute in reducing the suffering and cause of suffering of all sentient beings as much as we can. And to be able to help and contribute towards the happiness and cause of happiness of all sentient beings as much as we can. And to be able to do that in most effective way, in most skillful way, without the limitations, I must realize and actualize my full potential, the fully awakened state as quick as possible. To be able to do that, I must practice correctly, continuously. And to be able to practice, we have to be reminded of those practices again and again. By listening, reading, engaging in discussion, reflection, contemplations, again and again. For that very reason that I'm going to listen. So I might be reminded of those practices, and so that I can implement practice, integrate those practices in everyday life, so that I can improve and be a better person. Please, Guru Deity, bless me to be able to do that. Okay, then we can do that. Yeah.
What would you like to do this evening? Refuge Buddha Heart Sutra?
Yeah, we can do that way. Yeah.
Did you want anything else?
I think for today maybe that might be okay.
Okay.
Maybe tomorrow we can do the praised Buddha Shakyamuni morning, but today maybe, yeah.
Okay, so we'll start on page 7, Refuge in Bodhicitta. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. The Heart Sutra on page 23. Homage to the exalted three jewels. Thus have I heard at one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Vulture Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a child of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to the Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. That is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement and no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, no mental phenomenon. There is no I element and so forth, up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance and so forth, up to no aging and death and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, and no path. No exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, and because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times, by relying upon the perfection of wisdom, become manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tayata, gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, well said, O child of the lineage, so it is. The profound perfection of wisdom shall be practiced exactly as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Page 35, the short mandala offering. Saji perki juxing meito tram ri rabling ji yi deg yen padi sangye jingdu mikte uwan gidrokunamdak jingla churpa Sho Jetsun Lama Dampa Kyena Hi Chur Koi Kala Kien Se Trin Drigne Jitat Sampe Dul Jade Zin Ma Lahazab Ye Churki Char Pawab Tu So Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami.
관계 두전이 손에 더 동전 방법에 담배전에 된데 배고 담대라 창서. So before we actually discuss the actual main subjects, the 12 dependent link, I would like to just discuss a little bit how it fits in overall practice. And within the goal of our spiritual path, the ultimate goal. So again, as many of you are aware that within the Buddhist practitioner, there is two level of practitioner, two kind of practitioner. One who follow Theravada tradition, one who follow Mahayana traditions. And again, both practice are based on love, compassions. Both practice are based on that, based on love and compassions, that based on that we try to help and benefit others as much as we can. If we can't help others, at least do not harm others. That the basic message of that, to be able to reach and help as much as possible. If not, at least do not harm them. That is based on that. So both practice are based on that, on foundation of that. On the basis of that foundations, of course, for a Theravadan traditional practitioner, following that traditions, the ultimate goal of your practice is to, at the moment, to free oneself from the suffering, the samsara, and cause of all the sufferings, and to attain and achieve lasting, true happiness, true freedom, liberations. For the Mahayana practitioners, the ultimate goal of the spiritual path or the practice is to be able to free all sentient beings from suffering, cause of suffering, and to lead them to not only temporary happiness, short-term happiness, but true, lasting, everlasting, true happiness of fully enlightened state. So, so this is the ultimate goal of those different practitioners, and of course through the practice of three higher training, the morality, concentration, and the wisdom, one try to achieve those goals. In Mahayana, on top of that, then of course the bodhicitta and all six perfection, others for six perfection, and so forth. So, in order to in order to achieve this both goal of those different individual spiritual goal, ultimate goal, without proper understanding of Four Noble Truth, 12 dependent link, without proper understanding how we get caught up in this samsara and how to free out of that samsara, without proper understanding, realizing there's no way we can achieve any of those goals. Without proper understanding, realizing how we are caught up in the samsara and how to release from that samsara, absolutely there is no way we can achieve liberation, and there is no way we can achieve fully enlightened state. Also, without that proper understanding, it will be absolutely impossible to develop true sense of true renunciations. Without true renunciations, again, it's absolutely very difficult to make a progress in our spiritual path. So, of course, without the true renunciation, then of course there's no liberations. Without the true renunciations, without proper understanding of the nature of samsara, the nature of suffering, and how we get caught up in that suffering, then again it's very difficult to develop the great love and compassion to each and every sentient beings. Because we wouldn't see them as, we wouldn't understand a lot of sentient beings who are not affiliated by immediate gross suffering. We might not see them in a suffering state, painful state. Instead of feeling a compassion for them, we might even have an envy and jealousy about their life. What that shows is we have not really understood the nature of the samsara, subtle nature of the suffering and samsara. Otherwise, we will not be so jealous of such existence, such lifestyle or such. We see there is a nature of samsara. But the very reason that we cannot, instead of having compassion to such individuals, we actually get kind of attached to that, such states. We invade them, jealousy. That means so when you don't have that, then of course we cannot develop the great compassion, because great compassion, great love has to include each and every sentient beings, to be able to extend to each and every sentient being. So therefore, again, it is not possible to develop true bodhicitta as well. So therefore, this understanding is so important, crucial, whether we follow Theravadan traditions or whether we follow Mahayana tradition. For both, equally important, these subjects, to have proper understanding, proper realizations of that. So I think that is how you can say how it fits within that context. Okay. Whether we want to develop a strong wish to free ourselves from samsara or strong wish to free all sentient beings from samsara, first we need to have understanding what samsara is. What is the nature of samsara? In order to have a strong determination, a strong willpower to free oneself or all sentient beings from the suffering state, we have to understand what is the nature of suffering and what are the causes of suffering in samsara, and whether there is a possibility of freedom from such state. And if there is possibility of such state, what are the method, the cause, condition which lead to that state, freedom from the samsara, freedom from the suffering, completely. So, to have a better understanding of that, then we need to study, learn, reflect on Four Noble Truths or 12 dependent link, and both of them. So each help each other. If you have better understand Four Noble Truth, it can help to understand 12 dependent link. If you have better understanding of 12 dependent link, it can help to understand Four Noble Truth better. And in both understanding, it helps us to understand what is the meaning of samsara, what is the nature of samsara, what is the nature of suffering, and what are the cause of those, and how we continue to get into problems, how we continue to suffer, how we continue to take rebirth in samsara again and again endlessly, and how we continue to suffer endlessly. So therefore, the 12 dependent link become very important. Studying, learning. So the great master Nagarjuna said in one of his great writings, the 70 verses of emptiness, Pongyidunjuba. The phenomena, all the phenomena, all the phenomena which are depending on cause and conditions, perceiving them as truly, whatever the mind which perceives those as truly is explained to be ignorance by the Buddha. From that, all the 12 dependent arising or 12 dependent link arises. So that is what he says. So all the rest of the 11, 12 dependent link arises from the very root of those, the ignorance. The ignorance which grasps all the phenomena as truly existence, inherently existence. So where did Buddha explain that? So in Nagarjuna he said Buddha explained such as ignorance. From that ignorance, 12 dependent links. The rest of the 11 links, total 12 dependent links arises. So then if you go back, then in the sutras, Salu Jangwe Do, the rice seedling sutra, okay, I think that is what English translation, rice seedling sutra. In that, Buddha explained, whoever sees depending arising or dependent originations or interdependent, interconnected, whoever sees dependent arising, he sees the Dharma. Whoever sees, he sees the Buddha. And with this, he explained the general dependent arising, dependent originations, okay, in general. So whoever understands and realizes dependent origination, he or she understands true Dharma, the emptiness. Whoever understands the subtle dependent arising, dependent origination, he or she understands the emptiness. When he or she understands the emptiness, he or she understands the Dharma. Or develop the Dharma within themselves. When you have this wisdom which understand or which realize the subtle dependent arising, originations, then you have developed wisdom within yourself. Dharma within yourself. That is the inner Dharma, the true Dharma. And when you see the Dharma, you see the Buddha. When you actualize that Dharma within yourself, then you are able to actualize Buddha within yourself. When you are able to actualize that Dharma, the wisdom, understanding, emptiness directly, or dependent origination directly, then we are able to actualize our full potential and achieve fully enlightened state. So that was, so with that, Buddha explained interdependent in general. Then he go more he go specifically for the 12 interdependent originations, or 12 link of interdependent originations or interdependent arisings. So this, particularly how we get caught up in samsara, that link, that dependent originations. Then he go more specifically on that part. And then he holds, like Buddha was outside, rice field with rice field there, and then surrounded by disciples. And then Buddha hold one of the rice seedling, and due to this existence that exists, the rice field and the rice, due to this rice seedling, the effect, the result, rice field and the rice exist. Due to these productions that is produced. And then he go even further. Then he go inner, so that is more kind of general example. Then he go more inner, internal, due to the ignorance, compositional actions is produced. Due to the compositional actions, consciousness is produced. Due to the consciousness, name and form is produced. Due to the name and form, sixth sense faculty or power is produced. Due to the sixth sense power, contact is produced. Due to the contact, feeling is produced. Due to the feeling, craving is produced. Due to the craving, grasping is produced. Due to the grasping, existence is produced. Due to the existence, birth is produced. Due to the birth, aging and death is produced. Due to the aging and death, sorrow, mourning, like mourning, yeah, when someone dies or something when you lose something, mourning, sadness, unhappiness, and quarrel, fighting are produced. And due to that, we experience all this suffering, all this pain. So he explained the evolutions, gradual evolutions of the samsara, gradual evolutions of the suffering and pain, gradual evolution of aging and death, the suffering of aging and death. And then as in the term of purification or reverse order, as to how to get release from the samsara. So that is how we are caught up in samsara, or how we are tied up in samsara and continue to experience suffering continuously, unendingly. Then he explained how to get out of that samsara, how to free ourselves from out of that samsara, how to release out of samsara in the reverse, the purification. And that having ceased the ignorance, the compositional actions cease. Having ceased the compositional actions, consciousness ceases. Consciousness ceases. Having ceased consciousness, name and form is cease. Having ceased name and form, sixth sense power cease. Having ceased sixth sense power, contact is cease. Having ceased contact, feeling is cease, and so forth, until aging and death is cease. Having ceased the birth, aging and death is cease. And having ceased the aging and death and all other pains, sorrow, quarreling, fightings, mourning, sadness, everything is cease, and all the problems cease, all the suffering is cease. So that is how the Buddha explained the 12 dependent link, starting from the ignorance. Ignorance leading to the rest of 11 dependent link. And also when we stop the ignorance, very root of all that, then we are able to overcome and to stop the rest of the dependent link, and thereby we are able to stop the suffering, pain, and burden, samsara. So also what it explained within this sutra, the context of that sutra is that when Buddha explain, due to this existence that exists, due to this production that is produced, and due to ignorance, the action is produced, and so forth. All the conditioned phenomena, from Buddhist point of view, they are not produced by intentions of God, Buddha or something. They are produced by their unmistakable cause and conditions. Okay? With first, when he said due to this existence, that is existence, it means it negates the theory that all these phenomena are produced or come to existence by the intentions of God, Buddha, or someone else. So here it depends on its own cause and conditions. Due to this production that is produced, when he said that not only it depends on cause conditions, but it depends on something which is being produced. That means it depends on independent cause and condition, no, impermanent cause and conditions. Okay? So not only it depends on cause and conditions, but it depends on impermanent cause and conditions. Something which is permanent cannot be cause and condition for something which is impermanent. Okay? The result is impermanent, the cause and condition has to be impermanent. Something which is permanent cannot produce impermanent effect or result. Again, it is a negation of certain theory that, again, it is produced by permanent God, permanent soul, intention soul. And then, due to the ignorance, actions, compositional actions produce that, then he said that not only it depends on cause and conditions, it depends on impermanent cause condition. Not only it depends on impermanent cause condition, it has to depend on similar cause and conditions. Not every impermanent cause and condition can produce any kind of impermanent result. Do you get it? So it has to depend on cause, impermanent cause, not only impermanent, the similar cause and conditions. Ignorance produces such pain, samsaric state, not happiness and enlightened state. Wisdom, understanding the ultimate nature of phenomena or ultimate reality, produce similar result, happiness and enlightened state, not a pain and samsaric state. So therefore, the cause condition, the effect or the consequence or result has to depend on similar cause and conditions. So with that, So also with that you can understand the Buddha was also explaining the theory of the natural law of cause and effect. Natural law of cause and effect. Okay? So within this statement that we just, from the Rice Seedling Sutra that we just explained. So again, am I making complicating? Am I complicating? So I think with that, it just gives you some idea, the source of these teachings. Very root source of those teachings, okay? The 12 dependent link, 12 dependent arising from Sutra and from Nagarjuna's writings and others. So with that, before we actually go in more detail on that. So when we study about 12 dependent link, even though we study about the nature of samsara, suffering, the cause of samsara and suffering, as well as how to get out of it, and then the result of that path, cessations. So in general, we are studying the Four Noble Truths differently, from different perspective, different way of looking, but more in the term of the nature of suffering, the first noble truth. So we do not wish and we do not want to experience the suffering, the pain that come with the aging and the death. With the aging and the death, a lot of pain, suffering comes, physical, emotionally, mental. And we do not wish all these pains, sufferings, as well as all other pains, all the conflict that we have throughout our life with different peoples, with different individuals. All the argument, all the quarrel, all the misunderstanding, all the fight, all the conflict. We do not wish all of them, but we do experience. We do experience all these things. We do not want any type of suffering, pain, whether it's physical pain, whether it's emotional, mental pain, sufferings. Again, the fact is, we do experience those pain, suffering, time to time, again and again. If we do not wish all this pain, suffering, then we have to stop. First, we have to then we have to understand what is the cause and condition which lead us to such state that we have to experience despite we do not wish. Despite we do not wish, we don't want, but we continue to experience it. What is the cause and condition that drives that state? If we understand what is the cause and condition that drive to, maybe we might be able to stop that by stopping the cause and condition which lead to that state. It's same in our in dealing with our physical sickness. If we are having trouble, some kind of fever, headache, nausea, all kind of things, we don't want that. And if we notice what made us to have fever, headache, nausea, then if we treat that, the main sickness which lead to that symptom, then we will be able to treat and cure. So these are just symptoms of the certain chronic disease, chronic internal disease. So so then, as with the 12 dependent link, it is due to samsaric rebirth. As long as we are samsaric rebirth, which is thrown not because we come to samsara voluntarily or because we want to come it, But without any control, our karma, our actions throw us into such state, such rebirth. So when such rebirth, when we have such rebirth, then we experience all these problems, all this pain, all these sufferings. So therefore, in order to stop that, we have to stop such samsaric rebirth, in the samsaric rebirth. Because that is the cause condition to have sickness, aging and death, and all the suffering in relation to those. So, to be able to stop such rebirth, how can we stop such rebirth? How can we stop such rebirth? By stopping the main cause condition of such samsaric rebirth, which is the contaminated karma or actions and the delusions. When we are able to overcome and completely able to eliminate the delusion and contaminated karma or actions, then we are able to find total freedom, liberation from the samsaric rebirth, thereby achieving total freedom from the samsara, from the suffering, from the pain. How can we stop? How can we overcome such delusions and contaminated actions, karma? By overcoming very root of those delusions, contaminated actions, the ignorance. So again, come back to the ignorance, the fundamental cause and conditions. So, so again, 12 dependent link, study on 12 dependent link is to have better understanding of that point, that subject, that point. To be able to recognize, understand very root of that chronic disease, which is very fundamental root of the chronic disease of delusions, and the chronic disease of delusions which produce so much pain, so much suffering in our life. So as I read the in Sutra, I mentioned the 12 dependent link: ignorance, compositional actions, consciousness, name and form, six sense powers, six sense faculty, or contact, feeling, craving, grasping, existence, rebirth, and aging and death. So there are 12, okay? Mm. So if we discuss a little bit on ignorance, again, I won't go too much detail in that because again, that is again one of the big subjects. So ignorance, of course, within the different Buddhist tenets, there are slightly different way of defining the ignorance. Anyway, but I think without going into details, ignorance in general is a state of mind, mental factors, which engage to the object in a ignorantly, mistakenly. So that is, and then when we talk about particularly this ignorance, the ignorance of first of 12 dependent link or dependent originations is not only just ignorance, a very particular ignorance. And the ignorance, so before that, so of course there can be billions and trillions of ignorance we have, each of us, isn't it? Trillions different type of ignorance we have. But among those ignorance, there are two crucial ignorance. One is ignorance of law of cause and effect, and one is ignorance of the ultimate nature of self and other phenomena. The ignorance of ultimate reality. So these two are the two of the quite strong ignorance which lead us into samsaric rebirth and which tied us in the samsara, which does not allow us to free from the samsara. Due to the ignorance of law of cause and effect, we create unwholesome, unskillful, unvirtuous, negative actions. Due to such unskillful, unwholesome, unvirtuous, negative actions, then we take rebirth in one of the lower realms. And then in one of the lower realms within the samsaric realms. And then we are thrown into such rebirth, and we are tied up in such rebirth, and we suffer. Then even we don't have ignorance of law of cause and effect or karma, due to ignorance of the ultimate nature of phenomena, or ultimate reality of the phenomena, then again we create wholesome, virtuous actions, but within the samsara realms. Not pure virtues, but contaminated virtues. Not pure, uncontaminated, wholesome action, but contaminated wholesome action. Due to that, even though we have high rebirth within the samsara realm, we are still in samsara. We are not free from the samsara. Such rebirth continue to lead us definitely much more higher and much more happy than lower realm, but still within the cycle of samsara. So that is the ignorance. So there are these two fundamental ignorance which keep us in samsara and samsara rebirth. Among that, this particular ignorance that we are talking about that the first of 12 dependent link is the ignorance of the ultimate nature of phenomena, the ultimate reality of the phenomena. So that particular ignorance we are talking about, okay? Among the 12 the ignorance of the first of 12 dependent link is particular ignorance. This fundamental particular ignorance, the ignorance of ultimate nature of phenomena, okay? Not just a ignorance, but very particular ignorance. And such ignorance is not just not understanding the reality, it's much more than that. It's actually misunderstanding. Do you get it? Not knowing is one thing, but misgrasping is totally much more stronger. I might not know something. That itself is problem. That itself is ignorance. But actually, totally misunderstanding or misperceiving that. And not only misperceiving, it misperceived totally opposite of what it is a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Isn't it? Even in our worldly life, sometimes there are things which we are ignorant about, which we don't understand. That self is a problem, but then when we begin to not only not understand but have misunderstanding, it becomes bigger problems. Not only misunderstand, but when you begin to kind of perceive just the opposite of what the real fact or reality is, it becomes a huge problem. And here is the case here. So, even though self and all phenomena are not truly existent, this ignorance grabs and perceives as truly existence. Even though self and all phenomena are empty of inherently existence, this ignorance grasps and perceives or apprehend it as an inherently existence. Even though all the phenomena, including self, are empty of truly existence, the ignorance perceives it as a truly existence. Even though all the phenomena are empty of independent existence, even though they all are interconnected, interdependent, interrelated, dependent origination arising, this ignorance perceived as independent self, independent others. As one of the great Indian masters, Dharmakirti said, first there is sense of independent I, which separate us from others. There's sense of independent I, and there's sense of independent others. So then, that create the gap. So now there is feeling and perception of independent I. On the basis of that, then there is perceptions of independent others. On the basis of perception of independent others, then there is independent my friends, family, close ones, and those independent, my enemy or people whom I dislike. On the basis of independent, close people or sentient beings in our life, then we generate attachment. And due to such attachment, then we create a lot of unwholesome, unskillful actions. Due to such unskillful, unwholesome actions, then we suffer. Then we suffer. Then, on the other hand, there is independent, on the basis of independent others, there's independent people whom we dislike, the bad peoples, bad sentient beings. On the basis of that independent bad sentient beings, then there is sense of aversions and anger and hatred. Due to such aversions, anger and hatred, then again we create unwholesome, unskillful actions. Due to such unskillful, unwholesome actions, again we suffer. That is how we suffer. So it all comes to very root, perceiving oneself to be independent from others. When we all are interconnected, interdependent, even though our happiness and others' happiness are interconnected, interdependent, interrelated, somehow we feel independent. My happiness, your happiness, their happiness, my happiness, totally kind of unrelated, totally independent, instead of seeing it as interconnected, interdependent. Instead of understanding our life and others' life are interconnected, interrelated, we feel and perceive my life as totally independent, their life as totally independent, unconnected, unrelated. On the basis of that, then again, we engage in a lot of unskillful actions and make a lot of mistakes. Even though our existence and their existence are very much interconnected, interdependent, but we feel our existence as very independent, their existence very independent. We can't see it, we can't feel it. Isn't that the case? If we really observe our feelings, go back within and look it, that's how we feel it. What creates that boundary between us and me and them, us and them, is that feeling of unconnected, unrelated. That feeling of unrelated, unconnected, feeling of totally separate, independent. But when we have really good understanding, proper understanding of this subtle interdependent, interconnectedness, dependent origination, dependent arising, then we begin to feel we all are connected, interrelated. We and all sentient beings. All sentient beings and the world, the planet we live in, everything is interrelated, interconnected. When we begin to feel that way, we will not disturb others, just as we don't disturb ourselves. We will not harm others just as we don't harm ourselves. We begin to feel sense of cherishing others, caring others just as we cherish and care ourselves. So when we have that kind of feeling, sense of cherishing, caring to each and every sentient beings, the world, the planet that we live in, then we create less unskillful action, unwholesome actions. We bring less harm to others and bring less harm to ourselves. The very reason that we exploit and totally destroy this planet, the world we live in, is because we can't see that connections, that interrelations. If we truly understand, we will really take care of it very well. We will not destroy it, not harm it. It's the same with others. If we truly understand and believe that, then we will not harm others. We will take care of them well. The very reason that we are unable to do shows that we don't have that proper understanding of that or realization of that. So that is how ignorance functions. That is how ignorance functions. So when we see any object, when we see ourselves or others, there is appearance of truly existing, independent existence. And the moment you see it, you label, you project as truly existing, independent existence. The moment you label and project truly independent existence, then we perceive and grasp. And then on the basis of that, we act and we speak and think. And therefore, then we engage in unskillful, unwholesome speech, unskillful, unwholesome actions and thoughts, and so forth. Again, due to that, again we create more. We suffer and we create more negative karma to suffer again. So that is the first dependent link, ignorance. Then second, due to the ignorance, then we create the compositional actions, the second one, the 12, second of the 12 link. So the compositional actions in this sense is the mental state which kind of moves our intention, motivations towards certain objects. And the actions and speech at that time. So first we have ignorance, and due to the ignorance, then so there can be two levels of ignorance. One on causal level and one at result level, okay? On causal level, it is always this ignorance, the ignorance of ultimate nature or nature phenomena or the reality phenomena. Driven by such fundamental causal ignorance, then again we have another ignorance, the law of cause and effect. Okay? That the ignorance of law of cause and effect itself is driven by that ignorance. So under the influence of that such law and cause effect, then we create unwholesome actions, unvirtuous, non-virtuous actions, which throw us in one of the lower rebirth. Then that's due to that ignorance, fundamental ignorance, but we do not have the ignorance of law and cause and effect, and due to certain resultant good intention motivations, even though it was also driven by that ignorance, then we create positive karma, wholesome actions, virtuous actions. And due to that, we are thrown in higher rebirth. The reason that we have been able to create positive karma, virtuous karma, is because at that time we have positive intention motivations. Such action was done with positive karma intentions when we are doing the actions. Okay? But it is still contaminated actions or virtues or wholesome actions, and it still keep us in samsara, throw us in samsara rebirth, because it's driven by that ignorance. Do you get it? So if I can draw, there's this ignorance, the fundamental ignorance, then from that ignorance, again we have one more ignorance of law of cause and effect, and act out of it. This ignorance, and then we have positive intention motivations, and out of that we act and we create actions, and then higher rebirth. Are we connecting? Yeah. So again, with that we see, as long as we have this fundamental ignorance, even if you have the best intention, motivation, all your virtues, all your good things, still contaminated. Still cause of samsara. It is cause of happiness within the samsara realms. It is cause of happiness, but it is not the cause of true happiness. Beyond samsara, it doesn't become a cause of nirvana, the happiness of nirvana, liberations, total liberation, freedom. It doesn't become cause of happiness of fully enlightened state. It becomes cause of happiness, but within samsara realms. If we really understand that, it's to some extent it's a little bit scary, isn't it? Scary, or a little bit, sometimes you feel like a little bit almost kind of hopeless, almost. But with that understanding, what it need to come to understanding is the importance of understanding the emptiness, the subtle interdependence, the importance of cultivating the wisdom, understanding the reality, the ultimate nature. If we want to get out of samsara, if we want to find happiness, which is beyond samsaric happiness, that is why studying, reflecting, contemplating on these subjects is important, so important. Otherwise, we can find higher rebirth, we can have all kind of happiness, different level of happiness, but all within the samsara realms. All within the samsara realm, not beyond that. So again, there is law of cause and effect, external law of cause and effect, internal law of cause and effect. If we observe the external phenomena, external energies, we always know there is certain cause and conditions, certain energy produce certain result. Not every energy produce same result. And that is just law of cause and effect. That is how it is. Just as there is law of cause and effect externally, there is law of cause and effect internally as well. It's same. On the basis of that external cause and effect, when sentient beings' mind, emotions, intention, motivation get involved, then we create certain new cause and conditions. That is what karma, or this second, the law of cause, internal law of cause and effect. It's just like an energy. Within the energy, there are certain where it produces certain result. And then when you mix two different energies, or mix three different energies, then it produces different result again. Just like nowadays, all the plant, what do you call, modified, yeah? All these modified plants and everything, where you mix different energy, different substance from different, and then it produces different result, different color, different shape, different taste, all kind of things. So of course those are able to do because there is already law of cause how certain energy produce certain things. And so when you bring certain two different energy together, then it produces again different result. In same way, there is that law of cause effect, how the energy works externally. That is just a natural law of cause and effect. And within that, when sentient beings' motivations, intentions, mind get involved, so it is coming new, bringing one more new energy together with that external energies. And when that two energy come together, that is how internal cause and internal law of cause and effect is produced. The karma is produced. From Buddhist point of view, there is no such thing as random. It just doesn't make sense when on one hand you say all this energy lead to certain cause and everything has certain cause condition. At the same time, sometimes you just say random. It can be happen randomly. It's not possible. So anyway, we don't want to get into that. Again, it can be a big discussion. We don't get caught up. So, within the second link, compositional actions. Karma, there are many different types of karma. Meritorious, non-meritorious, and immovable. Your meritorious karma or actions is the cause for higher rebirth. Immeritorious, like not, is a cause for lower rebirth. And immovable karma is the cause for the higher God realms, such as form and formless. There are, again, different ways of throwing karma or completion karma, throwing actions, completion actions, certain actions which produce certain ripening result, which throw in a certain existence, and certain action which help to complete the experiences and so forth. Karma which is created through body, speech, mind. Again, we can see three different types of karma from that perspective. The karma created through body, through our actions, physical actions. Karma which we created through our verbal speech, and action which mental, just through our intention, motivation, thoughts, feelings. We can understand again different actions, karma through that. A certain karma or actions produce positive result, such as virtuous actions. And such as non-virtuous actions, it produces suffering, painful experience. And neutral actions or karma produce neutral experience. Neither happiness, neither pain. And I guess a lot of time our action will probably fall in that category, I guess. So again, It's a more neutral actions. We don't have bad intentions, motivation, neither we have good intention, motivation. A lot of time we just do it, isn't it? Unintentionally, no? A lot of time we do unintentionally. So I wonder, maybe those are the neutral actions. Probably those are the more neutral actions. Because definitely there is a, three type of that actions. Mm? So as far as I was talking about throwing and completion karma, throwing karma is the karma which throw us in a certain state, a certain rebirth, whether it's high rebirth or lower rebirth, whether in a human realms or another realms, that will be throwing karma. And then completion karma is the experiences that we experience within the actions which lead to different experiences that we experience within that. For example, it is some of the example that which will be explained is like being born as human beings, but going through a lot of poverty, let's say, not enough to eat, starving, and a lot of difficulties, sickness, and all kind of things. Throwing karma is virtues, that is why we have high. But completion karma is not virtuous enough. So therefore, we don't have enough to feed ourselves, sustain ourselves, and we don't have good health. All this because, but when you have throwing, so in that cases, the throwing karma virtuous and throwing karma is virtuous and completion karma is non-virtuous. So therefore, that is why when both are, throwing karma is virtuous, completion karma is virtuous in every, then we have not only rebirth as a human being, all the other success that we experience, good health, enough to sustain, survive without problems. So in that, and then it is said like in some of the animal realms, even though in text it says naga, but maybe if we take maybe naga is something we can't see it, so I think we can take example of some of the paths of those rich people. The throwing karma is non-virtuous because they are in lower realms as animals. But completion karma is virtuous, that is why they have much more than a lot of human beings. So much to eat, care, they can, some of them are millionaire. The paths. I saw recently somewhere, some article, someone left all his wealth, some few million for his cat. And I saw some shows, where they take those pets to five-star hotel, all kind of things. You can't just imagine, how much kind of they spend and how much they do for those pets. So anyway, this will be case of that. The throwing karma is non-virtuous and completion karma is virtuous. They have created enough practice with generosity so that they have so much to enjoy eat, and best food, everything like that, care, everything. So again, there are, to understand the better of that, then there is throwing karma and also completion karma. So the importance not only to create only positive throwing karma, but also to create positive completion karma in order to have a better higher rebirth. Not only higher rebirth, but better higher rebirth. And especially if we want to have the precious human rebirth, definitely. So then, the third one, the consciousness, dependent link of the consciousness, is this particular consciousness, which is the conceptual, within the 12 dependent link, the third one, does not refer to just a consciousness, but it refers to specific consciousness, specific moment of consciousness. Okay? So due to the ignorance, then we create certain actions, whether it's wholesome or unwholesome actions, whether it's positive or positive or negative, virtue or non-virtue action, whatever we create. The moment we create it, we plant the seed within the consciousness. That moment of consciousness is what this is, this third link. That very specific moment of the consciousness when the imprint or seed of that action is planted within the consciousness by certain specific actions. That moment of consciousness is that the third link of the consciousness. Of course, again, when we talk about consciousness, again, it is one huge phenomena. In Buddhist scriptures, first of all the phenomena are kind of divided or categorized in two phenomena: permanent phenomena, impermanent phenomena. Within the impermanent phenomena, then it is categorized, divided in three categories: consciousness, physical form, matters, and neither of them. Okay? So again, these big subjects. So of course, physical matter form, we can see our body, the table, everything, form, physical form, matters, physical matters. Consciousness, from Buddhist point of view, is non-matter, non-physical. It's a pure awareness, experience, non-physical, non-matter. Then, such as when we say person, okay, person is impermanent, but is neither physical body, is neither mind. So that is example of neither of them. Impermanent, but neither consciousness, neither physical matter. Example will be that when we say person, okay, the subject, the persons. When you refer to the persons, it's not the physical matter, neither it is a mind itself. On the basis of that, his or her physical body and mind, then we label it as persons, and which is impermanent, and such is the example. Okay, so I don't want to go to detail again. Kind of get distracted in another point and another subjects, but so this we are talking about consciousness. So we are talking about one particular big subject, which in Buddhism, most of the writing, most of the practice, most of the studies has been much more focused on that, the mind, the consciousness, than the physical world. And of course, the consciousness in Buddhist scriptures, they explain again many different ways of understanding it. Mind and mental factors, primary mind and the mental factors. One way of understanding is within that context. Primary mind and other mental factors. Another way of understanding is the five sense consciousness and mental consciousness. So again, five sense consciousness and one mental consciousness. Again, it all kind of summarized into that one of those. Within the mental consciousness, again, there are many different types of mental. One can understand conceptual mental consciousness, non-conceptual direct consciousness. Again, two ways of understanding that. Conception and non-conceptual mental consciousness. Another way of understanding of seven different types in logic, when you study logic, seven different types of consciousness. Some of them valid cognitions and some of them mistaken. So again, mistaken mind, and then doubt. Then from doubt is the consciousness which appear but cannot assert correct assumptions but cannot assert correct assumptions. As it gets better, then you have the inferential valid cognitions. As it gets better, direct valid cognition and subsequent cognitions. So again, there are different type of consciousness to understand that. So many different ways of understanding consciousness is a big subject, I said. But this particular consciousness we are referring here, as I said, is a specific moment of consciousness. Planted imprint or potential by the specific actions. And such consciousness is again mental consciousness, okay? Not a sense consciousness, that consciousness, which carries the seeds or the potential or imprint. Is a mental consciousness which continues from life to life after life. Not only mental consciousness, is a subtle consciousness, subtle mental consciousness. Most so again, within the mental consciousness, within the consciousness, there are gross level of consciousness, more subtle consciousness, more subtle consciousness. And gross level of consciousness, it ceases when we die, before we die. All this gross consciousness. At the process of death, even when we are clinically dead, still someone can go through the subtle consciousness. Three types of subtle consciousness: white appearance, red appearance, and black appearance. Also that ceases. Also that doesn't continue. Then the clear light mind, the most subtle mind, that is where it manifests, and that is the one which continues from life after life. And that is the seed, the imprint are carried by that more subtle consciousness. And that's more subtle mental consciousness, okay? And so that is what within the consciousness, that is what so that is the important of that. So it's specific moment, and also not only specific, it's a subtle consciousness which will continue. So then due to the consciousness, then of course the next 12 link, name and form, is produced. Mm. Okay, maybe we can stop here. So I can take one or two questions if you have so far. And if you don't have any specific question in relation to this subject, if you have other questions which is kind of bothering you or curious or something, also you are most welcome to do that too. Okay, you're coming over now. We have three hands coming. First, and we'll start with that.
When you were talking about being all connected, and so if we're all connected and there is unhappiness in someone else, how can I not feel their pain and get attached to that?
If we are connected, and so how
can I not? If they're unhappy,
mm-hmm.
and there's so much unhappiness in the world, so much samsara, then how can I not get kind of lost in the samsara, everyone else's samsara, because we're all connected?
So what will your question be? That means the question is why do not you suffer like them, or what?
Yeah.
Because we are connected. Well,
How can I stay connected with a clear mind, I guess?
with your clear mind. Well, to remain clear mind, to understand their problem, their pain, trying to understand, trying to develop sense of empathy, love, compassion, and trying to do as much as we can. If there are certain things that we can actually make things change, difference, we try to do. If there are certain things which we cannot do in actual, we can still try to have the right intention, motivation, try to send the prayers, dedications indirectly. So if there is anything positive in action we can contribute, help, we try to reach as much as we can. And there are certain things which actually we cannot do much sometimes, and so then we try to keep them in your heart, understanding they have problem, they have pain, understanding that, try to feel that, have the empathy, love, compassion, and try to dedicate our virtues, our goodness for their happiness. And then of course dedicate prayer, and if we are strong enough, and if we can even do some practice with Tonglen, taking and giving, and all other practice as well. So these are the certain practice that we can apply and integrate to really keep our mind in a more clear in that way, instead of being overwhelmed by that. Yeah. Yes, any more questions?
Yes, sure. You just discussed the gross consciousness and the subtle consciousness and the most subtle consciousness. What is the truth of that which is more primary than the most subtle consciousness? Because I would think it would be existence.
Which one?
I'm confused by the fact in the sequence of causality that of the 12, existence is, I think, number 10 or 11, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Number 10, yeah.
And I'm really having trouble wrapping my mind around that. It seems so primary, but that's beyond the scope of.
I think it will come tomorrow. I think we will go more clearly. Existence, even when it's put into your link in this sense, it comes to 10, but actually it happens at the third, or fourth, after the. So it's simultaneous with the main name and form, and existence happens simultaneously. But then I think maybe we'll discuss more on that. So it's much more earlier. No, I think I'm getting confused. Not the existence, is the birth, the 11. Okay. So anyway, we'll discuss tomorrow. And yeah, you are the one. Yes.
So you explained that ignorance was the beginning of all these chains of things in 12 links. Then I can't help but ask, what caused ignorance in the beginning?
I think that is one big question I think we have in Buddhism. There is no beginning. So that is there is no beginning. So then you can't say that was the cause which started the ignorance. If the moment we find there was a moment which caused the ignorance, then there is a beginning of something, of this whole samsara, all these evolutions. And then again, if there is a beginning, then again it is the same thing. The one which caused that ignorance, where does that come from? So again, the ignorance is beginningless. So because it is beginningless, so again, you can't point that something else actually caused this ignorance. Otherwise, it will have a beginning of that, and beginning of the samsara. That will be beginning of the samsara as well. So the ignorance, the moment of ignorance is caused by previous moment of ignorance. And that one is again, produced by the previous moment of the ignorance. So there is always one ignorance preceding before that ignorance, which is causing that ignorance.
So if this ignorance is endless, then how do we go about stopping it?
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be very hard thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it is definitely is hard. There's no doubt about that. It is not going to be easy. But from Buddhist point of view, even though there is no beginning, there is end. There is no beginning to the delusion, no beginning to the ignorance, but there is end to the delusions. And there is no beginning to the samsara, there is end to the samsara. There is no beginning to the pain, suffering, there is end to the end. So the way I understand, I try to understand, okay, is that because our mind, even though there is ignorance in our mind, even though there is many other delusions all the time, but the nature of our mind is unpolluted in nature. Those delusions are just temporary, like the clouds. And the nature of true mind, fundamental mind, is like the blue sky, clear. So because of that, then those clouds cloud can be clear, and to be able to see and experience the clarity of that, the purity, the clarity of that, and overcome that clouds or the dirts. So again, if it was not polluted in its nature, sometimes we feel like those temporary delusions seems like coming later. Do you get it? Because if it's not polluted in nature, it means it's coming later and kind of obscure later. So it seems there was a point when it was not obscure and kind of, but it's not like that. It is not polluted in nature, but it has always been there. And the way I try to understand is like, I try to think whether, I don't know whether it makes sense to you or not. Like the rice and its husk. Rice. The husk started, and rice and husk started come together. But the husk is not in its rice nature. That's why we are able to peel it and not being able to destroy the rice. Even though it started same, you cannot say the rice started and the husk started coming later. The moment the rice started growing, it was together, it was growing together. But at the same time, you can kind of peel it and kind of clear it. And so I think that is how I try to understand the delusions, even though they have always been together from the very beginningless, still they can be just like that. And then if we observe our own mind, thought, emotion, also we can understand a little bit when we don't allow our mind to allow our minds in the engaging the waves of the thoughts. We begin to see, when our thought dissolve, we begin to see more clearly our mind, where it is more clear, there's less confusion, there's less of that. And that gives us some glimpse of that. So I think one and two last questions.
I was again in the mental practice. I was thinking about, when you experience pain and sadness, is it a mental factor? It's not. It's a feeling.
The feeling is one of the mental factors.
Yeah, and so that experience falls under feelings. So that mental factor is active when I feel sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when when one feels sad, of course, the feeling of sadness, the mental factors of feeling of sadness manifest or arises due to certain circumstances, situation, whether it's external, internal, or both. And then when you have that feeling, then you feel sad. But actually it is not you, it is just one of your mind, one of your mental factors. So again, in dealing with it, it is very important for us to not to identify yourself with that sadness. See it as something, yourself as observing that sadness. So a lot of time we identify ourselves with those anger, I'm angry, as though you are the angry. It's not. Anger is one part of your mental factors which arises. So we learn how to not to identify ourselves with those, whether it's feeling of guilty, feeling of depression, feeling of sadness, feeling of anger, whatever those feelings. We try to not to identify ourselves, we try to observe from as we are observing there. We have all different emotions, different mind, and we're just observing it. When we begin to just distend and observe in that way, then we can deal with much more easiness. When we identify ourselves with that and when we become ourselves that, then it's very difficult. So that is again, we have to keep in our mind, say, I'm not angry, but my anger is arising. I'm not depressed, the depression mind is arising. So just learning how to kind of not to identify, just kind of observe in that way can be helpful. Yes, last questions.
Talking about karma, did I understand you right when you were saying there's different kinds of karma, like different kinds of seed, and to rebuild the junk we planted before, there's like different levels on the different things, whether it be actions and speech and stuff? Did I understand that right?
I was explaining how we can understand the karma from many different perspectives, the way it is. So one way of understanding from one perspective is trying to understand karma from or action, karmic actions, or physical karmic action, verbal karmic actions, and mental karmic action. That is one way of understanding. All the actions we do are either one of them.
I thought maybe they would have like different merits. On the different pieces of that. I'm new around here, so I'll just have to look it up too.
Oh, we all are new, to some extent. And that is, I was trying to explain how we can understand karma from many different angles. And one way of angle of looking karma is these three: body, speech, and mind. All our karmic action are, if we look from one angle, is, yeah, it falls into either of them, one of them. Then again, if we look from another different angle, then it is virtues, non-virtues, and neutral. Again, all the actions falls into one of those categories. Again, this is looking same thing, same karmic actions, but looking from different angle. So when you're from that angle, then again we have a little bit more understanding of karma, or better understanding. Then again, you look from different angle, which I mentioned many others, and then it's just to get a better understanding of karma. When you try to look same thing from many different angles. Yeah? Yeah. So we'll do the dedications.
Do page 39, Thanksgiving mandala offering. Saji perki jukjing me tokram ri rab ling jini de gyen padi sangye jing du mig te uwagi drokon nam dak jang lacher pasho Jetsun lame kutse rap ten ching nam katrin le chok chuk ye padang lo sang ten pedrun me sasungi droe mun sel tak tu nek yu chik idam guru ratna mandalakam niryatayami. Dedication on page 57. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. And page 75 makes him up. Nigmet se witter chen chen rezig dream yen jampelya kang chen ke pe tsu gen song kapa lo sang drak pe shabla so wa de.
Thank you very much and good evening. Thank you. Good night.